Welcome to WhatGear Reviews for another camera comparison, compare and contrast video sponsored by Vodafone.co.uk. Big shout out to Vodafone for hooking these phones up for this comparison, and an even bigger shout out to you guys for watching and subscribing to WhatGear Reviews. I really appreciate you guys. So you saw the title, you saw the thumbnail, you already know what this video is. It's the Sony Xperia 1 Mark II, the latest and greatest smartphone from Sony versus one of the most expensive top tier flagships that you can buy in 2020, and it's the iPhone 12 Pro Max. And I've yet to see a really good camera comparison on these two phones, so that's why I'm making this video for you guys. And this intro should serve as a good mic test and also a good selfie video test. And the way that I like to do these videos is we do all of the day stuff now, we'll do a bit of a video side by side in the middle, and then we'll get into my favorite section at the end, the night shootout. So there's only one question. Are you ready? Let's go. Okay, so let's begin with the selfie mugshots. There is quite an obvious and big difference between these two phones when it comes to color science. On the Xperia 1 Mark II photo, we seem to have this kind of green tint to it. It kind of looks like that Matrix style shot with a green hue over everything. Whoa. And you Sony fans watching this video will know the selfie camera on the Xperia 1 Mark II definitely isn't its strongest attribute. But trust me, later on in this video, the results get really interesting when it comes to the rear cameras. Anyway, the iPhone 12 Pro Max photo certainly looks more lifelike when it comes to skin tones. It's definitely got sharper details on it as well. Maybe a little bit of a beauty effect going on here, but overall, I think you've got to give the win to the iPhone when it comes to the selfies. So here's another selfie to test the HDR qualities of the two front-facing cameras, and it should be apparent to you now that the Sony has a wider angled lens than the iPhone 12 Pro Max, which is useful at times when you're trying to take group photos, but in scenarios like this where there's strong backlight, it can affect it negatively. You can see it's really struggling to block out that backlight, and it's affecting the photo overall. Also, that green tint seems to have carried over as well. And once again, on the iPhone 12 Pro Max, it performs really good here. Good details, good tones, good colors, and it's handling the HDR scenario very good. So far it's a win for the selfie camera on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Anyway, picture 3, onto the primary shooters in a high contrast situation. Now, this one's really interesting because it seems to me that the Sony is handling the brightness better than the iPhone 12 Pro Max, and it's even retaining the details in the shadows better. And what makes this more interesting is the fact that I'm just using the auto mode. I'm not even using the photo pro mode. And on the iPhone 12 Pro Max photo, the software seems to be subtly turning up the saturation and the contrast, which gives a great dramatic look, but it's a little less realistic to what it actually looked like if you were standing there. Now, I mentioned the Photo Pro app, and I did want to test it out just to see what the Sony phone could do with auto HDR on. So check this photo out. These are my war-torn sunglasses. I've had these since I started the WhatGear channel many years ago. Anyway, I wanted to test out a very extreme scenario when it comes to backlight with the Photo Pro app and the HDR on. And what you can see here, apart from the lens flare on both photos, both phones do pretty well, but the Sony does a very respectable job. The colors and the details in the foreground are really nice. You've even got a bit of that natural shallow depth of field look to that photo there on the Sony. The iPhone photo is certainly brighter, although the colors look a little bit more washed out. And there also seems to be quite a lot of softness in the foreground on the subject of the photo. So it's a clear win here for the Sony in my opinion. Let me know if you disagree. Anyway, that's enough jibber jabber. What we're going to do now is just roll the next few photos, and I'll join you again at the end of the video test section of the video, and then we'll get into the night shootout towards the end. Make sure you stick around for that. It's going to be interesting.
Cut out the jibber jabber. Don't be babbling like a fool. Say what you got to say. That's all.
Okay, so let me know which one of these phones performed better when it came to the video stabilization tests and the lens tests in the comments below. And if you're enjoying the video so far, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. Anyway, check this photo out. The sun was starting to get real low, although there was a ray of light shining through the window behind the dog here, and I used auto mode on both phones again. And again, you can see the iPhone is doing its best to make the image more dramatic by turning up the brightness. The fine details there in the foreground are actually really great on the iPhone photo, especially around the eyes. But with that said, the Xperia 1 Mark II seems to be nailing it when it comes to the color accuracy and the handling of the backlight. And in some areas of the photo, it is sharper than the iPhone 12 Pro Max, but in other areas, not so much. Had I gone into Photo Pro app, turned on the eye autofocus and all this kind of stuff, I think I would have got a better photo. And this kind of scenario is really what the Photo Pro app on the Sony phone is really designed for. But anyway, let me know which one you think won this one. Check this out. This was a tasty burger. And as you know, food pics are all important when it comes to smartphone cameras. And both pictures were taken from exactly the same distance, and the focal range differences you see here are largely due to the glass differences on the two devices. So I have a favorite here, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. Hit me up a comment if you want to know, and I'll be right back because I'm getting hungry all of a sudden.
This is a tasty burger.
Okay, so here we have my favourite cinema in North London, where you can get the best burgers in Barnet. Anyway, the photo, when standing there and taking these two pictures and reviewing the photos immediately after on the two phones, I can tell you the Xperia picture does display the most accurate image of what I was seeing with my eyes. The darkness above the building and the colours and everything are spot on, although there does seem to be a little bit of a motion blur there where my hand must have been moving a little bit whilst taking the photo. Had I used a tripod for this picture, the photo would have been 100% better. So it's great when it comes to colors, not so great when it comes to details, and that's because of the sort of handshake whilst taking the photo. Now on the iPhone, however, the picture is brighter, is sharper, there's less blur, and it's a really great photo overall. And it's delivered this by stabilizing that handshake and using a long exposure. And really, this is an amazing photo, although a little bit artificial. And let's see if that theme carries on over to all of the other night photos. Okay, so as you've seen, it's obvious that the iPhone does a great job when it comes to extreme dark scenarios. By using that computational photography and stabilizing the long exposures, you get a very impressive result in most cases. And essentially what it does is turn night into day. Whereas Sony, however, have a completely different approach when it comes to night mode. They like to keep it real. And the reality is, when it comes to night photos, especially the ones you've seen in this video, Sony is showing you how it is. Whereas the iPhone 12 Pro Max does an amazing job of trying to make things Instagram worthy straight out of the phone. And I think it'd be quite interesting to see how the 12 Pro Max handles against the Huawei P40 Pro or Mate 40 Pro. If you guys want to check out how the Xperia does against the Mate 40 Pro, I made a video all about that in the British RAF Museum. That thumbnail is on screen right now. And if you enjoyed this one, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. And if you just subscribed, you're now one of the finest subscribers known to man. I'll see you guys in the next one. Don't be late.